Hi everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of Educating Everybody. We are in the month of March, and this month we are focusing on endometriosis. So thank you so much to my guest for this video. Would you like to introduce yourself?
So, hi, I'm Hollie Robinson. I am a former pageant girl and now probably known more as the director of Royal UK Pageants. During my time as a pageant girl, my platform was all around educating people around endometriosis.
Amazing. So why was that your chosen platform? Do you have like a personal connection with endometriosis? What was the choice there?
So I started competing in pageants. A lot of the time there was a chosen charity involved in the pageants I actually competed with. And then when I came to Royal as a contestant myself, it allowed me the opportunity to actually choose my own platform, which I'd never had the option before. And I actually chose endometriosis as it's a condition myself and 1 in 10 women suffer from. So I found that when I was actually going through my diagnosis, there was not a lot of information out there. I'd never really heard about it until I actually found it myself online first, and basically looking at symptoms and everything. Not even any of the doctors had ever said anything to me about it. I actually found it myself and literally took like a print out to the doctors and like, what about this? So yeah, it was mostly my aim was to educate people about endometriosis, because obviously pageantry is a very female focused sport, as some people call it. And obviously this affects 1 in 10 females. So or people that menstruate now. We have to be inclusive of everybody. So it affects 1 in 10 people who actually are of menstruating age. So my main aim was basically educate people so that if anybody had any questions about it, they could come and ask me. I could tell them where to go to find the right information. And basically, it was to provide people the information that I was sort of lacking when I was going through my diagnosis.
Yeah, and that is absolutely amazing. And kind of on that note, why do you think the endometriosis isn't like a well-known illness? Because as you said, it's 1 in 10 people who menstruate that like will have it. So why do you think there isn't more knowledge and education about it?
So when I was going through my diagnosis, I was hitting sort of every brick wall that is very well known to anybody who has gone through this diagnosis themselves. So because the medical field is primarily a male dominated field, and this is a female dominated condition, there tends to be a bit of lack of knowledge and lack of acknowledgement as well for the disease. People think, oh well, it's just a heavy period, it's just a painful period. And I think at the beginning, when it was sort of being recognized, it was that sort of draw to people that was trying to recognize the difference between just a normal sort of heavy painful period and endometriosis. So I think it was mostly the divide between it being sort of a female orientated condition, because at the moment there's more government funding put into research on erectile dysfunction than there are for endometriosis and other female based medical conditions.
Oh my God, that is insane. That is crazy. So just with you saying that, like, so could you go into more detail about what endometriosis actually is? Like, what is it that's going on in your body?
Yeah, so endometriosis is defined as tissue like the lining of your womb found outside of the womb, basically. So this can be anywhere on the body. It's been found in the brain, it's been found in the eyes, on the skin, in the lungs. That's sort of very rare version, like very, very rare forms of it. It's commonly most found on sort of the outside of the uterus, fallopian tubes, ovaries, bladder, bowel, kidneys, sort of anything that's sort of in the lower part of your diaphragm that it's found on. So this tissue behaves very much like the lining of your womb. So it actively bleeds, which obviously, and it creates blood in your abdominal cavity, which is not supposed to be there because it's not the right type of blood. And your body sees this as a foreign body, like it would do with an infection, like it would do with anything that's not supposed to be there. And your body actively attacks this tissue, which is what causes the pain. So your body is actively fighting this tissue that your body is naturally producing. So that's what causes the majority of the pain. So it can cause sort of pain during periods. It can cause pain during ovulation, because obviously it's increase of hormone. So for some people, it can cause pain all day, every day. It depends on the way your body actually reacts to this tissue. So there are certain stages of endometriosis. There's 1 to 4 stages. You can have stage 1 and be in crippling, excruciating pain. You can be stage 4 and not even know you actually have it. So it all depends on how your own body reacts to that tissue. So some people will have issues with fertility, especially if it's found on sort of the fallopian tubes and ovaries. This is a big thing that I had myself. I've actually had to have 1 ovary and 1 fallopian tube removed because of how bad the endometriosis was on one side. Some people have stuff called chocolate cysts, which doesn't sound that great, does it? It sounds all right, chocolate. It's not. It's full of old blood, black blood.
Oh, no.
So this is what was covering one of my ovaries, which is eventually why it had to be removed. So yeah, it's a very sort of awkward condition as well, because obviously it's gynecological. A lot of people don't really like to talk about those things, and when you start talking about periods to people kind of like clench up and go, "Ooh, okay," and they don't like it. So that was sort of one of my main aims when I started, was sort of be the girl that would openly talk about it. People can talk to me about anything, because a lot of the symptoms of it are not pleasant. Like with any sort of medical condition, they're not pleasant, but it's a lot of sort of invasive treatments. There's a lot of sort of not very nice symptoms. Like most commonly, there can be pain during intercourse, there can be pain during bowel movements, there can be sort of pain generally anywhere on your body. There's a lot of stuff that can happen with it. It can cause migraines, it can cause all sorts of variety of things, because your body's actively attacking this tissue. So your body's constantly fighting a battle with itself every single day.
That must be absolutely awful to live with as well. And like you're saying, if there's not much sort of education on it within the medical field, it must just be horrific.
Yes. The average diagnosis time is actually 7 to 10 years.
Oh my God.
Yes, the average diagnosis, 7 to 10 years. And that's because a lot of the time, people who will start having symptoms tend to have them from the onset of menstruation. So a lot of times it happens when you're a teenager. So a lot of medical professionals will put it down to, your periods are just starting. It's normal, they will become regular. The pain will ease off and stuff. Or a lot of time you'll get fobbed off that it's, maybe you're a little bit sensitive to the pain, and just take some paracetamol, just take, a hot water bottle, will be absolutely fine. But it's debilitating enough where people are taking time off work, people are taking time off school. I know myself, I had literally a week off school every single month when I was younger, because I just couldn't walk when I had this pain. It was far too intense. And like during my sort of 10 years that it took me to actually get my diagnosis, so I was one of the unlucky ones, and it actually took me 10 years. I was 24 by the time I actually received my diagnosis, and that was going to the hospital, the doctors, numerous times. It was like many sort of admissions to A&E with like extreme pain, because I was thinking there must be something else going on. There must be like I was investigated for sort of Crohn's, colitis. They put it down as IBS. There was all sorts of stuff that they thought was going on, and not once did they mention that it could be endometriosis. Like in that whole 10 years, it was actually myself that I found it online, when sort of thinking, there's something not right here, something going on. And sort of Googling it myself and finding this this checklist on the Endometriosis UK charity website. And that basically it was like a checklist, like if you have all of these symptoms, like check it off and take this to your doctors and say, this is what I have. This is the only time that they'll probably actually listen to you, which is what I ended up doing. But yeah, so it took me around 10 years to actually get that diagnosis. And even when I was trying to get that diagnosis, there's no blood test, there's no sort of scan they can do. The only way that they can diagnose endometriosis is by doing surgery, which is a laparoscopy, which is keyhole surgery to actually physically look and to evaluate the inside of the pelvis. So when I was trying to get my diagnosis, no one on the NHS would do it for me, because they kept saying that I didn't have endometriosis. So they were saying that it was not this, it was just me being overly sensitive to pain, overly sensitive to everything, And like I was having sort of periods sort of every 2 weeks at this point, so it was like debilitating. Like I couldn't walk. It got to the point where like it starts to affect your mental health as well, because you think like I can't put up with this anymore. That's like a big side of it as well, which I think we've got some questions on later as well. But yeah, so my parents actually ended up paying privately for me to have this laparoscopy diagnostic surgery. And even when I went in for it, like the doctors was like, you don't have endometriosis, we're only doing this just, you know, to satisfy your curiosity about it. Being really horrible about it. Like this female surgeon, she was not nice. She was like, you don't have it, this is a waste of time, but you're paying for it, so we have to do it, kind of thing. It was just, yeah, it was horrible. Like, oh, I got accused of having like Munchausen syndrome as well at that point, like referred to a psychiatrist because he thought I was literally making it up in my head because I had a psychological condition. Yes. And then after I came round from this surgery, she was like, it's the worst I've ever seen. She was like, it was everywhere. It was on your diaphragm, it was on your bowels, on your bladder, was everywhere, because they've done MRIs, they've done scans, and it doesn't show up because it's not like a tumor. It's not like anything they can see. It literally is tissue. So that doesn't really show up on MRIs and stuff because it doesn't pick up tissues. It picks up stuff that shouldn't be there and stuff. And this like flat tissue that's basically like spotted all over like these organs basically, and obviously they actively bleed, which unless you catch them doing that during this thingy, you're not really going to see. She was like, there was like blood everywhere inside your abdominal cavity, like rotting blood. Like she was like almost like it was like decomp. I mean, it smelled awful. So yeah, it was bad. So I got diagnosed with stage 3 straight away. It wasn't stage 4 because it didn't have something called webbing, which is where the endometriosis basically is that bad. It causes webs between like your organs, so it webs them together. So that's the only thing that I didn't have, but I did have surgery 2 years later, and they confirmed it was stage 4 then at that point. So even after you have surgery and they treat it, it just grows back. It's like a weed. Once it's implanted, it doesn't ever go, unfortunately. No, I've had 3 surgeries now to treat mine.
So does that mean then that there isn't really any sort of, I suppose there is treatment, but there's no sort of cure out there for it, then it is something that's just going to keep coming back?
So in my opinion, there's no real treatment at all. The only thing that they can do is, because there's no treatment because there's not been enough research into the cause of endometriosis. They say that it's hereditary, but no one in my family has it. So it can't be hereditary then, because no one in my family has it. And they're trying to say, well, it might be, they just don't know about it. So yeah, they say it's hereditary. They said it can be something like if your parents have been taking, like if your mum had been taking the pill, that's another sort of, yeah, there's another, they're trying to blame it again on females, and it's something we brought on ourselves kind of thing. If your mum was taking the pill before she got pregnant with you, that's why you've got all sorts of things. And like with myself, I was like a product of IVF, like very, very early stages. Yep. So and then I was like a twin and everything like that. So yeah, there's all this sort of stuff. And my mum obviously had a lot of sort of experimental drugs when she was pregnant with me, and then they tried to blame that. There was all sorts they tried to say it was, but then not everybody's the same. Like I've got friends that were not IVF babies and they had endometriosis, so it can't be because of that. So I think they try and blame on everything, but yeah, there's no real treatment because they don't know what causes it. And I think if they had more information about the cause of it and more research on the cause of it, then they were able to define a treatment for it. But at the moment, it purely is just treating the symptoms of endometriosis, not the cause of it. So with myself, I tried all sorts. I tried all the different tablets they offered me, variety of different birth controls they try and put you on because it stops, like the pill stops obviously menstruation. It gives you sort of a fake bleed. So they say, well, that's better because then you're not actively bleeding, so the endometriosis tissue won't bleed as well. But that didn't prove working. I got offered to be put in a form of medical menopause for 6 months to try and reset my body. But I used that because I'd already had one ovary at this point, it can actually cause damage and it can stop the ovary then working. So then it would actually leave me menopause for the rest of my life. And obviously I wanted children. So I was like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. And then when I was 24, they told me, oh, we'll just have a baby then, because that will sort it. A lot of people, a lot of people would just have a baby and, you know, it would reset and it'd be fine. And it's, you know, that's one of the most common things you get told, is to go and have a baby, because then it'll just sort it. And I remember being sat there and going, I'm not going to have a child just to address a medical issue that I have. That's not a reason to have a child. No. And I was 24 at this point. So I was like, no, not that one. Yeah, and they tried all sorts. And unfortunately, I'm very lucky where I am allergic to a lot of pain medications. So I'm allergic, like deathly allergic to cocodamol, which is in a lot of pain medication. So the only option for me is like strong opioid based medications, which obviously are highly addictive, that kind of thing. So I was like, I really, really don't want to depend on them. Like, I do have them for the days when I can't walk, can't get out of bed, kind of thing. I have to take them, because literally if I don't take them, I would literally be screaming in bed. But on a day-to-day basis, I don't have them, so I literally have to rely on paracetamol, like ibuprofen. So I was quite lucky in the sense that the sort of after the first, no, I wasn't lucky in the sense, after the first operation that I had, where they confirmed that I actually had endometriosis, I had this, they said, oh yeah, what we've done is we've done ablation, so they've burnt off all of the areas of endometriosis they could find. So she was like, you'll be fine now, you'll be absolutely fine. And I went away thinking, oh my God, I will be fine now. They've sorted it, I'm done. You know, again, because I was so uneducated about it, because no one had actually fully explained it to me. I'd done my own research and stuff, but it's not the same as a medical professional actually explaining it to you. I thought I was going to be absolutely fine at that point. And I was for probably 11 months. I had not a hint of pain, had absolute perfect periods. Every month was fine. I thought, you know what, this is it, done it, great, over and done with. And then within the space of 2 months, it came back with a vengeance and was worse than the first time. So I remember going down another 2-year route to try and get another surgery, but this time on the NHS, because I'd already had my diagnosis of endometriosis, and there was no record on my NHS record of me having endometriosis. So I had to go through the whole entire thing again to get diagnosed. At this point, I was 26. So I had my second laparoscopy surgery at the hospital at Blackpool, and again I was diagnosed with stage 4 at this point, because I had webbing, I had everything. But at this point, they'd seen the webbing on a MRI scan that I'd had, so they'd already had some sort of proof that it was there before I'd gone into surgery. So that's why it was easy to get the surgery this time, because they could actually physically see something on an MRI. So I had that, and again, it was all removed. It was great, absolutely perfect. They did warn me that the only tube that I had left was highly, highly scarred. So if I ever wanted children, it would be very, very hard to conceive naturally. I would have to be a candidate for IVF. And obviously, because I already had one ovary, I probably would probably have to do that anyway. So yeah, so then again, I was fine for about 9 months at this point. And it was getting less and less each time. So 9 months I was fine, had no issues whatsoever. And then ended up came back again with a bang. And this time I decided that, after obviously being in the endometriosis community for a while at that point, that people talking about endometriosis specialists, and at one point someone said to me, oh, you need to go to an endometriosis specialist or refer you to a specialist. I didn't know these specialists actually existed. Yeah. So and I was lucky enough to find one in Preston Hospital, which is literally like 45 minutes away from me. Some people travel like hours and hours to go and find these specialists. I managed to find one there, and honestly, the care was completely different when I went there. Like this, the surgeon was like drawing me diagrams of how everything worked. Like you could tell that he was really interested in what the disease was, how it affects each person and stuff and everything. He was so interested in what my background and everything that I told him, because he was just like, yeah, he's like, I don't understand why like no one's offered you any of these other treatments and stuff. And like I was offered like a variety of other treatments, but I turned them all down because they all had a risk of uterine failure and sort of ovarian failure. And obviously with only having one ovary and one fallopian tube left, we both sort of agreed that it wasn't worth it without, you know, he said if I wanted to go one of the experimental things that was going on, that, you know, experimental as in like it wasn't having trials or anything, it's just something one doctor had come up with and wanted to try it, that I'd have to sort of freeze my eggs first as well, just in case if anything happened. I'd have to do that privately. So yeah, it was yeah, the care I had with him was completely different. And I actually had my third surgery with him in March 2020, so just before COVID actually happened. So I was very lucky in the sense that I had my last surgery just before COVID. And sort of the difference from having a specialist perform the surgery and sort of just a general gynecological surgeon, completely different. Like it's probably been, well, it's been over 2 years now, and I'm not as bad. Like it's coming back a little bit, but it's not come back horrendously. It's coming back slightly, like now and again and stuff. But they referred me to like a pain management clinic service and everything to try and find alternative methods. So I was sort of I was given a TENS machine. I was taught how to do self acupuncture. Well, so yes, the difference between being with an actual endometriosis specialist clinic and just general gynecological place is completely different. So yeah, that's definitely something I would advise to anybody, is to find a specialist, and you can self-refer to the specialists as well. So
that's good. That's really good. And obviously you said that you pretty much had to go to the doctors and say, I've looked this up, this is what I think I've got. So if there's someone watching this video just now who thinks this is sounding like I might have it, what sort of symptoms should they be looking out for if they think they might have endometriosis?
Yeah, so the main one is sort of a debilitating period pain. So if your periods are causing you to sort of take a day off work, or take a day off school, or even get to the point where you can't physically move, or the pain is that bad where you sort of know in your head that something's not right, I think that's a big thing. Like if you listen to your own body and think this isn't right, like periods are meant to be painful, but if you take some paracetamol or like use a hot water bottle, normally you're all right and you can function day to day. If it's knocking you and you can't do stuff and it's literally interfering with your life, that's the main symptom to look out for. There's various other ones as well. So like I spoke about before, so obviously the pain, it can be sort of in your lower stomach, it can be in your lower back. Mine is primarily in my lower back because I actually have a tilted uterus, so that's why my pain is mostly at my back. But it can be stuff like down your legs. Like the pain for me goes all the way down my legs, and I actually had to take a nerve blocker to stop the pain going down my legs. Otherwise I find it hard to walk and I can't actually move my legs properly because they feel like sort of heavy lumps attached to my body. Pain during or after intercourse, that includes bleeding as well sometimes afterwards. There can be pain when using the toilets, that can be when you're peeing or obviously when you're going having a bowel movement kind of thing. There could be blood in both as well, because obviously blood can be on your urethra, it can be on your bowel, it can be found kind of anywhere in your body. And then also when you're people who are a little bit old as well, if they're having sort of fertility issues, a lot of the time people will find that they might have endometriosis, but maybe their body doesn't attack it like some people's do, so they actually have it and they don't realise. But obviously that can be a big thing for people who are trying to have a baby, maybe it hasn't happened yet for them. A lot of people go and have investigations and find out that it's because they have endometriosis normally. So but yeah, so it's also the fact of heavy periods as well. People who have really heavy periods, obviously that can be an indication that there's something kind of going on more. I mean, having the fact that you're having to sort of change pads or tampons at every hour or so, that kind of thing, you know, extremely heavy periods, that kind of thing. But yeah, mostly if it's just having a big sort of impact on your day-to-day life, that's sort of the main thing to have a look at.
And then you kind of touched on this earlier on as well, but how would you say there's a correlation between having endometriosis and the effects it can have on your mental health? Would you say there's a connection there?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I'm part of quite a few endometriosis support groups online, and you do sort of see the effects that it has on people's mental health. Like there are a lot of the girls that will say that they struggle with mental health with it, because it is a debilitating chronic pain condition, and if you're in pain that often, a lot of time you often think like, how long can I take this anymore and stuff. And if you're not being listened to, if you're not being offered treatment, some girls will literally wait for a laparoscopy for years and years and years. Some girls, especially like in Northern Ireland as well, the wait time at the moment for them is something like 5 years. So, and it depends where you are in the country as well as to how long it is for that wait. And obviously with COVID and stuff, those times have massively expanded now. I think the wait time at the moment for my hospital where I have mine is 4 years, whereas beforehand it was 2. So yeah, it can have a huge effect. I know that the communities have lost quite a lot of young women due to obviously endometriosis. A lot of people tend to take their lives because of the pain side of it, because they feel like they're not being listened to. It can be an extremely lonely disease as well, because if you're with a partner who doesn't understand endometriosis, if you're with your family doesn't understand it, it can be quite hard to explain, because people know periods exist, they know that they're painful. There's all these jokes around people being mardy on the period and stuff, and having pain on their period and stuff like that. But this is a whole different ball game, and it's quite hard for some people to explain, to understand, especially if they have normal periods themselves. It can be very hard for people to understand, because they think, well, I have a period, you know, it's a bit painful and everything, I can get on, you're just being soft and stuff. The amount of times I got told that, I nearly punched a lot of people in the face before that. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of times I'm like, oh, well, I pay for periods too, and I'm like, yeah, it's a completely different thing. And it's so hard to be. Yeah, so it can be very, very lonely disease, especially if you're not being listened to by medical professionals, especially if you've been told it's all in your head half the time. The amount of times I got told that it was, you know, in my head, I was just over exaggerating, you know, it was just, when you feel like you're constantly hitting barriers and stuff, you're not getting anywhere, you start to understand why people think that there's nothing, you know, it's never going to stop. So, but yeah, so it can massively affect the mental health side of things. And it's something probably during my time in pageantry that I never really touched on, was the mental health side. So, but yeah, because it's already quite a taboo situation to talk about periods and like mental health and everything like that. So to put the two and two together, I think that's quite a strong thing. I think that's what one of your sister queens at the moment is doing, is Anushka. She's obviously got a campaign around endometriosis and the mental health side of it as well. So yeah, so it can be a very sort of lonely, debilitating disease that unless someone else is going through it, they don't really understand.
Mm-hmm. So kind of on that note then, if someone is watching this who knows someone that has endometriosis, whether it be family member or a partner or a friend, what from your experience would you say is the best way to support someone that has endometriosis? Because obviously, like you said, it's not something you can fully understand if you don't have it. So what would you say is the best way to support someone?
I think the best way is to be understanding, listen to someone when they're sort of maybe having a bad day, because some days you can be absolutely fine and you have no pain and you think, oh my god, I'm great, I feel great and stuff, and the next day you'll be like, nope, spoke too soon and everything. And it can be really hard, especially when you're like trying to make plans with friends and family, that kind of thing, and they don't understand why you're always sort of saying, oh, you know, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore, I'm not feeling very well. It's sort of just being understanding of people, asking what you can do to help, if there's anything to help, you know, how you can be understanding. Each person is completely different, so it's really hard to sort of say, oh yeah, you can do this and be absolutely fine. So it's probably just having a very sort of frank conversation with that person, going, right, okay, I understand you're struggling, like what is it that I can help? Do you want me to come around and, you know, do a bit of cleaning in your house, kind of thing, if you're having a really bad day? Do you want me to go to the shop and do your, you know, go and get some shopping for you, kind of thing, if they're having, and you know, if you're having a really bad pain day, kind of thing? Or if it's like, okay, you can't go out to plans, why don't I come around and watch a film at yours, kind of thing? It's about being understanding of people's sort of needs at that time as well, because a lot of the time people will sort of revert back into themselves because they don't want to be a bother to people. I remember I quite a lot, I was like, oh, you know, making up every other excuse, and the fact that I had like bad pain, I felt, oh, you know, I'm really sorry, I've got to go and help my mum with this, or you know, I've told somebody I was going to do this now, so I'm really sorry, I can't do that. I would literally make up reasons as to why I couldn't do stuff, not ever blaming the endometriosis because I felt like I didn't want to be bothered to people. People are, oh, she's always ill. But yeah, I really wish that I hadn't done that. I wish I'd been completely honest, because my friend's been like, no problem, like, is there anything I can do to help? Like, let me know. Yeah, so I think it's been understanding of someone's own personal situation at the time and stuff, and then just checking in as well, making sure if they said they're having a bad pain day and stuff, you know, are you okay? Just send me a smiley face back. You don't have to give me a long list of anything or anything, you know, just checking in, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously this whole platform is about educating people on these lesser known illnesses and their correlation with mental health. So I feel this is a bit of an odd question with endometriosis because it is so lesser known, but if you could educate the entire world on just like one aspect of endometriosis, what do you wish more people knew?
Probably just what it is, the name of it, just the actual name, just endometriosis. Like the amount of times I said to people, oh, my platform is endometriosis, they'd go, what's that? Or they'd be like, what is that, and stuff, and they'd have no idea. And this is obviously in a female focused industry. 1 in 10 women probably have it, that they should all know about it. And it's, yeah, so it's mostly just knowing what it is and the name of it. So that was my focus during my time. Obviously I still advocate for endometriosis now. I still have people message me going, oh, you know, do you think this is endometriosis, or do you think this is? I still have people messaging me now, which is what I was there for. You know, my name was out there so people could come and ask me questions about it if they wanted to. So yeah, just understanding what it is, and the name of it as well. So if someone thinks something's not right in themselves, they can go to the doctors and say, what about endometriosis? And then probably give that doctor a different train of thought then, because it might not be something they've thought about before. But a lot of time now, if you say it to people, and they'll be like, all right, yeah, okay,
yeah,
maybe. So it gets the ball rolling. So as soon as they know what the name is, and they can go to the doctors with it, yes, that's probably what I'd say.
Yeah. Because I think I was saying this to you the other day, I hadn't heard of endometriosis until I joined Pageant Land, and obviously it was yourself and Anushka. But then looking into it myself, like, this isn't a new disease that's about or anything. Like, I think I read that Marilyn Monroe had it, and obviously that's you going way back to like the 50s and stuff. And it just seems like there's been no development since then in awareness or in treatment.
No, definitely not. So obviously it's a condition that's been there since the start of time, since periods exist, and obviously since the time periods existed, humans existed. So yeah, it would have been there this whole entire time. It's just, like I say, it's because it's a female-based condition in a rather male-dominated medical field. That's what I believe personally is why it's not sort of developed as much as it has, and people tend to put a lot more focus into other diseases, especially because it's not a fatal disease as well. So that's why it gets kind of overlooked a lot of the time, like, because it's not a fatal disease, people can live with it, they're fine and everything like that. But it's not fair to let people pain for their entire lives and stuff. And there's even cases of people where